I guess if we're talking bargains, Mahomes is bargain, obviously, 46 and change at APY for an average per year. But the biggest bargain at quarterback in the NFL is a rookie contract and a kid doing what, say, C.J. Stroud did last year and what we expect of him now. Or Jordan Love last year, right? Even though he signed a contract as a one-year extension. And when you take a look at the numbers of the APY again, because, again, I appreciate you providing me these numbers so our crack staff could put this together. You take a look at the 50 million APY club here in Burrow, Goff, Herbert, Jackson, and Hurts. And Hurts was a bargain too, right? Where he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl on a second round draft choice contract. Then you take a look at 6 through 10, and there's Mahomes sitting there at 46.3 million, and Murray, Watson, and Allen at the end. And then we land on Cousins, you said is going to make 60-something million bucks this year from Atlanta, which leads me to believe, just a long wind-up for this pitch, the Goff contract and the conversation we're having that it engenders, it just scratches my head again that the Falcons would go ahead and draft Michael Penix Jr. and take a year of this moment of his career and say, we're going to have you learn from Cousins. And I understand that that kids are going to sit and rest, and the Patriots are willing to potentially do this with May and let him sit, and the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy as well. But to have somebody so expensive on their roster and Cousins, and then take a year of somebody's rookie contract and say, you sit, it makes it, to this point, makes no sense at all still. And I'm wondering, now that we're a few weeks away, what you're hearing about and what you're thinking on this subject matter. Tom.
I have talked to a lot of coaches and front office members in the couple of weeks since the draft, and every time that draft pick comes up with Michael Penix going to Atlanta number 8, everybody says to a man, to a person, yeah, we were all shocked in the draft room. Every team was shocked in the draft room. And that was despite there were breadcrumbs indicating maybe this was possible and they'd gone and done a private workout. All that stuff, it felt like a smokescreen. It felt like the Falcons wanted somebody to trade up into that spot and take Michael Penix so they wouldn't have to. And they had conversations about trading down from that pick. In the end, it takes somebody to be willing to give up what you think is fair value for that pick and come up. The Falcons didn't get it. So they stood in and took Penix. You know, I talked about this, Rich, when I was out there. What's up to the fellas in the studio, by the way? Miss you guys already.
When
I was out there,
It's too late. It's
talking about, this situation here. It's not that drafting the successor is a bad idea. It's that there's no precedent for signing a quarterback to the type of contract that the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins to, and then drafting the successor a couple months later. This is not Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. This is Aaron Rodgers on the Jets if the Jets had used their top pick last year to go and take a QB. You wouldn't do it. The NFL is a asset allocation, resource allocation league. There's all these people who say, oh, the cap's a myth. Every year we see that busted because teams have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes they have to reset and move on from a bunch of veterans because you just don't want to carry that year to year, rolling things over, rolling future dead cap. It's every dollar you spend hits the cap eventually. And so when you're trying to think about, okay, how does this play out here with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix? Let's go by year. Okay, let's assume nothing at this point, but let's assume Kirk Cousins plays the season for the Falcons. He makes $67 million. At that point, at the end of the season, let's say Cousins has played well, but you've seen enough of Michael Penix in practice. You decide, you know what? We're all ready to pull the plug right now and to move on to the Michael Penix era. Kirk Cousins in 2025 has a very palatable number. I believe he's owed $23 million, fully guaranteed. He's got another $10 million guaranteed in 2026 that becomes fully guaranteed at the start of 2025. So effectively, that contract only has $37 million practically guaranteed left into the future here. You could absolutely, unless Kirk Cousins plays terribly, which I don't expect, you could absolutely trade that with Kirk Cousins. But then you're taking a mountain of dead money and you paid Cousins $67 million to play 1 year for you. you're moving on from the rest of the guaranteed money, but there still would be, cap consequences because of the prorated portions of the signing bonus. You'd eat all that in 2025, so that would take up a lump on your cap. So really, it's a 2-year cap impact of Kirk Cousins before you move on to Michael Penix. The cap number is lower this year because of the signing bonus. If you go with Kirk Cousins for a second year, now you've paid him $90 million over 2 years. You still can move him in 2026, but the number's a lot higher at that point. And now you're 2 years into a Michael Penix contract. Oh, yeah, by the way, Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause, so he can effectively scuttle any deal that you could agree to and say, I'll only be traded to this one team. If you want to move on from me and go to the other guy, that's fine, but I want to go here. And your leverage in a trade then drops off. You've got drama into the offseason. It's very, very complicated. And I can only believe that Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot discussed this exact scenario prior to the draft, and they were comfortable that, hey, it's going to create dynamics in the locker room. It's going to create dynamics in the stadium, in the fan base, in the media, with the salary cap, and with cash. You would hope Arthur Blank, the owner who wrote that check and $67 million, put $90 million into escrow for Kirk Cousins, you would hope that he's completely on board with everything as well here, because there's no easy out. I guess that's the short answer to the question, Rich, is there's no easy way out on this with Kirk Cousins. Yes, you could trade him next year, but Cousins would have to go to a place that he wants to go to, and you will have already cut him a sizable check, a lot of money that you've invested in Kirk Cousins just to transition a year later to the next guy.
Wow. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.